Without any further ado, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Friedman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a while since I visited your community. I think last time I was here, I was talking to your mothers. So a lot has changed. So let's talk about getting married. First of all, why? Why do you want to get married? It's important. The why makes a huge difference in how you do it and how you get to it. The reason for marriage is because we are not complete. We're not a whole human being without being married. The Torah says right in the beginning that the first human being was created male and female. It was one person, and this one person was male and female. Then God separated them and made a man and a woman. And then he told them to get married. And why should they get married? To become one. Now, we always thought that the first person was created male and female, and that's not normal. So God fixed it with a little plastic surgery. He separated them through an operation, and now they're normal. But it's the opposite. The way Adam was created, that's the normal way. The separation is not good. And that's why it needs to be fixed by getting married. Because every separation is not holy. Echad is holy. Where there's 2 or 3 or 4, it's trouble. So when Adam was male and female, that's holy, that's healthy, that's correct. Separation, every separation has to be fixed. Our neshama comes from Hashem, it gets separated from Hashem. Our job is to reconnect with Hashem, because separation is not good. We got separated from our land. We were in Gullus for 2,000 years. It's not good. We have to reconnect with our land. So all separation is unholy. So why do we get married? In order to be complete and whole. You do that by becoming one. And that's why marriage is different from a friendship. It's different from living together. Because you don't become one unless you're married. You can become close to somebody. You can be best friends with somebody. You're not one. Only in marriage do you become one. The Mishnah says that any relationship that is dependent on something is not going to last. But a relationship that is not dependent on anything will last forever. In America, the country that you happen to live in America, every marriage for the last 80 years was dependent on something. And that's why marriages don't work in America. What are the marriages dependent on? Love. For the last 80 years, people got married because they were looking for love. And when they realized that they don't love each other anymore, the marriage fell apart. It's not an exaggeration to say they didn't marry each other. They married love. And when there was no love, there was no marriage. So this is the first thing we have to correct in our thinking. When you're getting married, you're not looking for love. That's an American mishigas. It's an insanity. If you really want love, stay home with your mother. She will love you all you want. In fact, the time to get married, how do you know you're ready to get married? When you don't want love anymore. Because when you want love, you really need your mother. When you're old enough that you don't need love, now you're ready to get married. But we're all brainwashed. We're all brainwashed to believe that love is the main part of marriage, and that marriage is all about love. He loves me, I love him, we get married. It doesn't work. It can't work. You marry somebody for their money. You know that's a problem. That's not a marriage. That's not a relationship. That's not even nice. Why is it better if you're marrying someone not for his money, but for his love? It's not any better. You marry a person for the person, not for something he can give you. More than that. You don't marry your wife or your husband in order to get something that you can get from everybody else. One of the reasons you shouldn't marry a person for their money is because you can get money from anybody. You can get love from anybody. So if you're marrying for love, you're really marrying a generic drug that you can get from anybody. The reason you're supposed to marry is because this is the person who is meant for you. The person, not his money, not his love, not his looks, him. So here's another important thing. Men and women should really stay away from each other. A man who has a woman in his life is already messed up. You see? Because you know it's true. A woman who has a man in her life is making herself crazy. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. Men are better off without women, and women are better off without men. The first time I heard from a couple, a man and a woman, they're dating, which means they're living together, and they're not getting along so well. They're having a problem, so they're going for therapy. I said, let me figure this out. I said to the guy, there's a woman who you are trying to have a relationship with, but you don't really like her. So you're going for therapy? What are you doing? If you don't like her, say goodbye. I never heard two guys who are good friends and they get into a fight, so they go for therapy. You get into a fight, the friendship is over, be well, and we go our separate ways. What are you going to therapy for? Especially since it is so normal and natural for a man and a woman not to be able to get along. So if there's a man and a woman and they can't get along, they're normal. What are you going to therapy for? If you ever meet a man and a woman who do get along, they need therapy. Because either he's not really a man, or she's not really a woman, because men and women don't get along. A man is better off without a woman. In other words, he's a healthier man if he has no woman. And a woman is a healthier woman when there's no man around. But a husband, it's a different story. A husband is not a better husband if he doesn't have a wife. He can't be a husband without a wife. And a wife is not better off without a husband. You can't be a wife without a husband. So men and women are better off without each other. A husband and wife cannot exist without each other. Which means the reason marriage works is because the man who used to be a man became a husband. And the woman who used to be a woman became a wife. For the last 50 years in America, no man wants to be a husband. He just wants to have a woman, but he doesn't want to be a husband. And he certainly doesn't want a wife. He wants a woman. No woman wants to become a wife. It's not glamorous. And no woman wants to be married to a husband. Because husbands are all losers and nerds. So what has happened, they get married, she remains a woman, he remains a man, and they're better off without each other. So this woman said to me years ago, I don't know why Hashem is not answering me. I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying, and he doesn't answer me. So I said, tell me what your prayer is. She said, I ask Hashem to help me meet somebody. I said, that's your prayer? You asked Hashem to help you meet somebody and you haven't met anybody? She says, no, I don't mean just anybody. I mean somebody special. Okay? So you're praying to meet somebody special. You have never met anybody special? Of course you have. Okay, he's married, but he's special. So she says, come on, you know what I mean. I mean the one for me. So, oh, the one for me. What is that called? That's called my husband. So you don't want to meet somebody. You don't want to meet a special guy. You want to meet your husband. Because you're not going to marry a man, you're going to marry your husband. If you ask that way, well, maybe your prayers will be answered. But even that's not good enough. You don't ask to meet somebody special, my husband. You don't want to meet him. Then what are you going to do after you meet him? What you're really asking for is, this time next year, I want to be living in my home with my family. That's what you want. So why don't you ask for it? Why are you asking for half a bracha? I want to meet him, I want to see him. You don't want to meet him, you don't want to see him. You want to be already after the chuppah. So say so. Think like that. This is so much healthier. Well, a person says, I'm looking for a very special woman. I'm not married yet because I'm looking. I'm looking for a special woman. I don't understand what a special woman means. What's a special woman? I'm afraid that what people mean by a special woman is somebody who's not really a woman. Special woman is not really a woman. You're not shopping. You're not choosing from all the women in the community. You want to choose the best and the nicest and the finest. You're not in a shopping market. There's only one woman that you're going to marry. It was decided 40 days before you were even conceived. So your wife is already your wife. You just have to marry her. So you sit around thinking, no, I want my wife to be tall. No, I want her to be thin. No, I want her to be... She already is whatever she is. Stop it. This is not like a Lego. You're going to put together your wife piece by piece? Your wife is already your wife, and it's too late to start designing her. So stop worrying about whether she's tall or short or thin or whatever she is, she's your wife. It's not like buying a car. And some people say, well, why not? You want to get the nicest car, you want to get the nicest husband, you want to get the nicest wife. The difference is very simple. When you buy the nicest car on the market, it's only good for 2 years. 2 years later, there's a nicer car, and you're going to trade it in for a nicer car. You want to do that with your wife also? You want to lease a wife? With limited mileage? I don't even know what that means. Never mind. This is the problem with marrying for love and marrying a woman. Women come in different models. Why would you settle for one? Love you can get from many people. Why limit yourself to one? But if you're getting married, you're not looking for love, and you're not looking for the best model husband or the best model woman. You're looking for your husband and for your wife. There's only one. And you can't choose. It's done. The only thing you can choose when you marry the woman or the man that you're supposed to be married to, what are you going to do to him? That you have to plan. Are you going to make his life worth living? Or are you going to make his life miserable? That's up to you. But who he is and what he looks like, it's already been decided. What is stronger, more permanent, holier than love. If you're not supposed to get married out of love, what is it that holds together a husband and a wife? And sometimes you hear from people who really don't like each other, and they complain terribly. So when I speak to them, I say, so what's the problem? Get divorced. No. From what you just told me, how much you hate each other, and how much you fight with each other, and how miserable you are with each other, what's the question? Get divorced. No, we don't want to get divorced. How come? How come? You obviously don't love each other. They don't want to get divorced because they feel that they belong together. It's not we're staying together because we love each other. No, we're staying together because we're supposed to love each other. Why are you supposed to love each other? Because we belong to each other. Why do your parents still love you after what you did to them? Maybe they don't love you anymore. But you belong together. That is stronger than love. Much stronger than love. I was once speaking in Brooklyn, and this woman got very upset in the audience because I said that every woman should take after her mother. She got so upset. She said, whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe your mother is normal, I don't know. But my mother was destructive and manipulative and cruel, and she ruined her marriage, and she ruined my marriage, and she ruined my brother's marriage, and she destroys everything she touches. She says, if you have a mother like that, then what do you do? I said, well, in that case, you take her into the backyard and you shoot her. So this woman says, no, seriously. I said, I'm serious. What you described is a monster. Shoot her. So she says, come on, she wasn't that bad. I said, oh, maybe you forgot to mention something about her. But you described a monster, not a human being. So start all over again and describe a human being. If you hate each other, and I sit and listen to couples talk about each other, you're married to a monster, divorce him. Come on, he's not that bad. Oh. So give me a normal description. We don't want to lose each other because we belong to each other after you're married. And that is much more powerful. If you are mine, then if I don't love you today, maybe I'll love you tomorrow. But we belong together. So if we belong together, that's the relationship. If I also love you, that's like the whipped cream on top. But if I just love you, and we don't belong together, so if I'm enjoying the love, I'll stay. And if not, I'm leaving. So let's talk for a moment. What is a marriage? Because it can't be a feeling. It can't be a mood. Get into a bad mood, marriage is over. Good mood, you're married. That's ridiculous. It's insane. Here's what it takes to be married. Number one, without kindness, you can't have any relationship. You have to be kind to be in a relationship. Because a relationship means you're letting another person into your world. Kindness makes room for another person. Without kindness, there's no room. So you may want to get married, you may want to be married, and you can't. It's like asking somebody to move into your apartment, and there's only room for one. So what are you doing? If there's only room for one person, and you're that one person, then don't get married. Don't even try. What does it mean to be kind? Another word for kindness is generous. To be married, you have to be generous. And that's why chesed is the first sfira in Kabbalah, the first sfira of creation, like Sunday, is chesed. Without that, you can't start anything. Generous means an openness and a sharing. You have to be generous with your money, with your possessions. If you're not generous with your possessions, you can't live with somebody else. In order to be married or live with somebody else, you have to be generous with your time. I hear couples arguing. Just this afternoon, this woman said, I told him to do something, he didn't do it, and we were 5 minutes late. So you want to divorce him over 5 minutes? No, it's not just this 5 minutes. Last week we were 5 minutes late, and the week before that we were 5 minutes late. She's not generous with her time. You can't spare 5 minutes for your husband? So you have to be generous with your money. You have to be generous with your time. You have to be generous with your space. You hear people, you hear husbands saying, I'll give you money, I'll give you all the time. Just don't come into my space. Don't walk into my office. Don't walk into my room. Give me my space. So you're happily married as long as you're in separate rooms. Not generous with space. Then there are people who are not generous with words. A man tells me that his wife did something so beautiful, so nice. She's so good. She's so... I said, did you tell her? He says, no. I said, when she did this for you, this beautiful, wonderful thing, she did it for you, and you were so happy. Did you tell her? No. Why not? No. Not generous with his words. And then there are people who are not generous with their opinion. Their opinion is always stingy. I don't think gratitude, thank you, I appreciate, I don't even think it. She did something wonderful? Okay, that's what wives do. Well, I mean, if she didn't do anything wonderful, why would I be married to her? So yeah, she did something wonderful. But even in my mind, so what? So I owe her a thank you? Yeah? To be married, you have to be generous. So if you want to measure, judge whether you're ready to be married, look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I generous enough for 2 people? because maybe you're not. In fact, American culture, which we are all brainwashed by, tells you not to be generous. It teaches you not to be generous. It teaches you not to have time for another person. It teaches you not to share your space with another person. It teaches you to be selfish. It tells you that you deserve. I mean, look at all the advertisements, all the television shows, all the movies. The selfishness that people are proud of. Even the songs. I did it my way. Shame on you. That's so narcissistic. And it fits the singer. The song fits the singer. Totally selfish. No generosity. So, the first thing that it takes to be married is generous. By the way, generous means I'm really not interested in myself anymore. You want to talk about me? I'm so bored. Me as a topic. I mean, 25 years is not enough. So when you look in the mirror, and there's your face again, and you think, oh, come on, not this. I know that face already. Give me a new face in the mirror. Now you're ready to get married. But if you go into the mirror and you start looking and you're so fascinated, wow, look at this and look at that, and stay single. Don't ruin anybody's life. Stay single. You're ready to get married when you're not fascinating anymore and you need somebody else in your life. Somebody to be generous to. The second thing that it takes to be married is respect. This is such a neglected subject, and it is maybe even more important than the generosity. If you're living in a house with somebody that you don't respect, it's dangerous. You're going to destroy each other. You cannot live together in the same house without respect. What does respect mean? There's respect you have for a special person, a superior person, an important person. That's not what we're talking about. Respect means dignity. Every person has their own private identity. Respect means honor that privacy. It is so offensive. Even though I've heard it a million times, it still bothers me. A wife is on her way out of the house, and the husband says, "Where are you going?" What is she, your daughter? Where are you going? I have to report to you every time I leave the house? And more than anything, the tone. Where are you going? What are you, a policeman? Worse than that, husbands say to their wives in the house, "Come over here." Come over here? This is how you talk to a wife? You shouldn't talk to any human being like that. Come over here, you say to a dog. I remember growing up, before bar mitzvah, and there were 7 of us, we didn't really know what my mother's first name is. Because my father never called her. When he wanted to talk to her, he went into the room where she was and he talked to her. He never called her by her name, "Come over here." So he never used her name. Rabbeinu Gershom made a gzerah, a cherem, that a husband is not allowed to read his wife's mail, and a wife is not allowed to read her husband's mail. Every person has to have their dignity, their individuality. So you don't force your husband to speak about something that he's uncomfortable with. You don't pry when he's trying to keep a secret. When he trusts you, when he's in the mood, when he's ready, he'll tell you. But if he doesn't want to tell you, you have no right to demand it or to go and take it when he's not looking. Dignity. And part of dignity is tzniut. If you run around in your underwear, you've lost your dignity. You've lost respect for yourself. You've lost respect for each other. And it could look cute, it could be fun for a week, for 2 weeks. After that, it's downhill. You lose respect. If you have generosity and you have respect, you have a healthy relationship. But it's still not a marriage. What makes it a marriage and not just a good relationship? The third principle, and that is holiness. Holiness. Marriage is not something that you and he got together and decided to make a marriage. No. Marriage is something that God invented. Marriage is something that God commands. It's His idea. It's a holy idea, and it is the holiest thing that two human beings can do when they're not doing a mitzvah. So when you're aware, it's not just us. This is something bigger than us. This is something holier. This is something that affects past generations. Because your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents, you are their future. So whatever you do in your marriage, or however your marriage goes, affects them. Because this is what they worked for, this is what they hoped for. And then how is it going to affect coming generations? How are your children going to grow up? In a healthy home, so that they'll be healthy people? So if God entrusts you with a marriage, and entrusts you with children, this is a much bigger thing than, I like him, I don't like him, we get along, we don't get along. This is much bigger than that. How can you get hung up on silly little details when you know you're doing something awesome and magnificent? Let me end with a story. I was in yeshiva, Chabad, and I saw older guys getting married, going off on shlichut, doing magnificent things, changing the world, answering people's questions, inspiring people into Yiddishkeit. And I said, I want to do that already. I'm bored with learning. I want to go do it. So when I met my wife, I said, please marry me. I got to get out of yeshiva. So we got married. And we went off to Minnesota. I was very excited. because this is what I was waiting for. My first phone call. A teenage girl called and said, my class in high school is discussing intermarriage. There are 2,000 students in this school. 4 of them are Jewish. And 2 of those 4 Jewish kids are in this class. And they're discussing intermarriage. And the priest, the Catholic priest, came and spoke about it from the Catholic belief. A minister came and spoke about it from a Protestant belief. And now these 2 Jewish kids want a rabbi to come and speak about it from a Jewish. So they looked in the phone book. They never saw me, I never saw them, but they wanted a rabbi. So they said, would you come? I said, of course I'll come. That's what I'm here for. This is my life's dream. So they told me the date. I was all excited, and I thought, this is 1970. It's like 1,000 years ago. I thought, how should I do this? This is my first time, and these kids don't know anything about Judaism and about. So I decided the best way to go is to wear a leather jacket, a motorcycle jacket. So I borrowed a motorcycle jacket, and I went to the. I walk into the classroom, and this is like a suburb of Minneapolis, way out. Some of the children come to school on a horse. And this is like in farm country. So I walk into the classroom, and I almost fainted. The priest and the minister were both sitting there. So you know the famous joke, a rabbi, a priest, and a minister? So this is what happened. A rabbi, a priest, and a minister showed up in a classroom one time. I thought they already spoke. I wasn't listening. They agreed to speak, but it's going to be a panel. Now, you're not allowed to sit on a panel with other religions. So right away, this thing is bad news. This is wrong. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to be here. This is my first event, and it's already a disaster. But I can't walk out. I'm stuck. Now, I didn't expect the priest and the minister to be there, so I was shocked. But they were expecting a rabbi, but when they saw me, they were still shocked. They never saw a rabbi with a beard. It's like, whoa, you don't look like a rabbi. And they certainly never saw a rabbi with a beard with a leather jacket. So they got very nervous. I was 22. They were in their 40s, maybe 50. And they got so nervous. They wanted to know if I want to speak first, if I want to stand, if I want to sit. They didn't know what to do with me. And I'm cracking up because I'm not supposed to be here. To make it worse, the teacher comes over and says, we only have 45 minutes. So each of you will speak for 5 minutes. I can't speak for 5 minutes. How do you talk about intermarriage for 5 minutes? So now it's a total disaster. So we're each going to get 5 minutes, and then the rest of the time, the students are going to ask questions. So I didn't want to speak first because I was panicked. So the priest spoke first. He got up and he said, you're not allowed to intermarry. You have to marry a Catholic, because if you don't marry a Catholic, then your marriage is not valid. It's not considered a marriage. The church doesn't recognize it. You're living in sin, And if you do marry somebody who's not Catholic, then at least you have to raise your children Catholic. That's it, 5 minutes. Then the minister spoke. He said, you know, the divorce rate is climbing. There's a lot of trouble in marriages. It's not so easy. There are a lot of stresses. So it's not a good idea to add another stress to the marriage by marrying somebody from a different belief. About 5 minutes. Now I got up. And I'm standing in front of the class. And I'm paralyzed. I can't think of anything to say. Nothing. My mind is paralyzed, blank. I don't know what to say. I'm not supposed to be here. This is a disaster. I'm sure that as soon as people find out that I sat on a panel, I'm fired. I never even started. I blew it before I even started it. And another problem, what should I say? You're not allowed to intermarry. It's not even considered a marriage. Torah doesn't recognize it. The Eibusha doesn't consider it a marriage. I sound like the priest. I don't want to sound like a priest. If I say it's not such a good idea, you're not going to agree with each other, it's going to add stress, I sound like the minister. So what should I say? Why am I here? I'm finished. That's it. So I'm completely paralyzed, panicked. I blank. But there are 30 students staring at me, waiting for me to say something. So I have to say something. So here's what happened. When your brain is paralyzed, but you have to say something, your mouth starts to talk. And you have no idea what it's saying. So I said, my mouth said, why are we discussing intermarriage in 1970, in modern times? Nobody bothers getting married anymore. You live together as long as you want. When you don't like anymore, you leave. These kids were so shocked. This is a rabbi? The priest got so upset that he interrupted. And he said, oh, you're not allowed to do that. Living in sin, you're not allowed to do that. I said, it's modern times. Nobody gets married anymore. So what's the difference whether it's an intermarriage or not an intermarriage? There's no more marriage. These kids very politely, respectfully tried to explain to me that you have to get married. A girl said, when I grow up, I want to get married and have somebody to support me. I said, why are you going to school? Get good grades, get a job, support yourself. Because I don't know what I'm saying about intermarriage. This guy raises his hand and he says, human beings are not meant to live alone. Human beings need companionship. I said, sure. You can have a lot of companionship, but why are you getting married? Finally, one after the other is trying to give me an argument, and I'm dismissing their argument because I don't have what to say. Finally, a girl says, you know, when you get married, you have a baby, and the baby has to have a mother and a father. So I'm completely out of control. I said, have a baby? Nobody has babies anymore. Haven't you heard of birth control? The priest got very upset. And he interrupts again and he says, that's unnatural, that's forbidden. Anyway, the two Jewish kids are cracking up. They can't believe what's going on over here. And I am panicked out of control. 25 minutes later, the students said to me, "Oh, so why do we get married?" All their good reasons I made fun of. So they said, so why do we get married? So I said, the only reason I know of is that God told Adam and Chava to be monogamous, to be married. And since then, all over the world, in every society and every culture, people get married because they know it's God's way. It's the right way. And then I thought of something to say. Takes me a while, but I get there. I said, and that's why you can't intermarry. The only reason you're getting married, like the niggun from the Gemara, the only reason you're getting married is because that's God's way. So why are you marrying someone God doesn't want you to marry? Make up your mind. Just like you can't make a Seder on Pesach night and serve bread. If you don't want to make a Seder, fine. But don't make a Seder and serve bread. So you're getting married because God said. And then you're marrying somebody God said no. As soon as I said that, the bell rang, class was over. Before I could turn around, the priest was out the door. He ran away so fast. But the minister comes over to me and he says, "Can I walk you out to the car?" And he was very serious. And I thought for sure that he was offended. I insulted him. So we're walking down this long corridor, you know, the high school buildings. It's a long, we're walking and he's very serious. I thought, oh boy. Finally, he turns to me and he says, "What you were saying in the classroom, is that from the Old Testament?" So I said, "It's the only testament I've ever read." So he says, "You know, we spend much too much time on the New Testament." Okay, if you say so. I'm not going to argue with you. So here's the story. The only reason to get married is because it's God's way. It's not a logical thing to do. It's not a sensible thing to do. You don't do it because you like each other. You get married because it's a higher, bigger than human condition. So to be married, you actually have to be a little bit more than human, because two human beings shouldn't try to live in the same house. But when you're married, you bring in something holy, and you become bigger than just a human being. That's the secret of marriage. Kindness, big enough for two. Respect, dignity, modesty in the home is more important than in the street. If you want to be immodest and you want to run around in your underwear, do it in the street. But not in your house. Your house is holy. The street? So the neighbors will think you're crazy. But you're not destroying your marriage. In the home, you have to be at your best behavior, not at your worst. And then number 3, realize that this is something holier than humans. It's like being in the Beit HaMikdash. So you treat the relationship with awe, like something sacred, holy. One of my favorite stories. I was speaking to my teacher. I was a teenager. I was standing on Kingston Avenue speaking to my teacher, who was a very smart man. I loved to talk to him. A young couple come over to him because he's also the Rav in the community. And the young wife says to him, "Rabbi, isn't it true that you're not allowed to take soup out of a pot on Shabbat? Tell my husband, he doesn't know." And this rabbi turns to her and says, whoa, slow down. What is the question? Are you allowed to take soup out of a pot on Shabbat with a ladle? She says, yes. Out of a hot pot? Yeah. While it's on the fire? Yeah. On Shabbat? Yeah. He says, that's a complicated question. I'll go home, I'll look it up. Call me later in my house, I'll tell you. So they walked away. I'm looking at him, like, what? It's complicated. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbat. If you stir a pot, that's part of cooking. So if you want to take soup out of a pot on Shabbat, you have to take it off the fire. Every kid in school knows this. I said, what's complicated? Why didn't you tell her that she's right? And he said, and make a husband look ignorant in his wife's eyes? You're not allowed to do that. So he made himself look stupid, but not to insult the husband. This is called holiness. A married couple is something holy. You're not allowed to weaken or damage the respect they have for each other, even if you have to make yourself look foolish. Now, if you have a marriage and you are generous with each other and you are respectful to each other and you realize that this is something holy and awesome, you're not going to love it? Now love comes in. How can you not love that? And if you don't love it today, you'll love it tomorrow. So the marriage stands on these three legs, and the love makes it sweeter. But a marriage is not a love. It's much more real than love. Much more important than love. So here's the thing you have to remember. Nothing that you can get from your husband is more important than your husband. That makes sense, no? Nothing about your wife can be more important than your wife. That's marriage. If you read books, secular books, non-Jewish books, even some Jewish books, about romance and about dating and about marriage, you're getting all the wrong information. Every one of them. Even the good ones. They worship love. They think love is everything. And if you're having a problem in your marriage, it's because you don't love each other enough. If your child is not behaving, because you don't love him enough. And if you love him a lot, well, love him more. That's their only answer to everything. More love, more love, more love. And we're drowning in it. We're drowning in this love. It's not helping. It's making it worse. So what do you think? And what else would you like to talk about? So when you're choosing who to marry, what do you choose? When you're choosing and deciding, you have to choose things about him, because you don't have him yet. So the only thing you can look at, the only thing you can see, are things about him. How many things about him do you like? You like his looks, you like his sense of humor, you like his opinion on life, you agree with him on many things. These are things. But once you marry him, now you have him. The things don't count anymore. Now he is more important than those things. If you don't make that switch, then you're dating him for the rest of your life. It's no fun. So that's an important change that has to happen. When you're dating, you're looking at even the little silly things, and that's good. Check out every silly thing. But once you're married, it doesn't matter. He's yours. And that is more important than anything else. In fact, we're all grown up, right? You're all over 18. What is intimacy between a husband and wife? The definition of intimacy between a husband and wife is two people with nothing between them. Got that? Intimacy means two people with nothing between them, which means nothing separates them. We started off saying, God separated Adam and Chava. How do you separate? You put something in between. If you want to go back to being one, what do you need to do? Just take away the separation. If you want to see each other, but you don't see each other, it's because there's a curtain in the middle. Take away the curtain, you will see each other automatically. How do you become one? By putting away all things, and it's just you and him. That's intimacy. Which is different, I'm talking about physical intimacy between husband and wife, which is different than sex. Sex does not bring you together. Sex is the thing that separates you. Because when people talk about the sex that they had, they call it. It's a thing. It can be good. It can be bad. It can be best. Which means that there is something that is more important than him or you. Intimacy means when two people can get together, nothing, just them. Just them. So if a husband and wife are together physically, there is nothing, because people are not things. And in the intimacy, there's just him and her. Who's a thing? What thing? So if you asked your grandmother, what happens in the bedroom when a husband and wife go into the bedroom? What happens? Your grandmother says, nothing. Nothing. And you think she doesn't want to tell you the truth? She's telling you the truth. When a husband and wife go into a bedroom, they don't take with them anything. There are no things. Love is a thing. It'll destroy your marriage. Sex is a thing, and it'll destroy your marriage. The intimacy, the physical relationship between husband and wife is not because you're looking for the pleasure, it's because you're looking for each other. That's not a thing. That's a completely different experience. That's a good way to make a baby. When there is nothing, then there's room for a baby. But if the mother is busy with her pleasure and the father is busy with his pleasure, and then they have to compare to see who had more pleasure, the baby doesn't feel welcome. There's no room for the baby. Everybody's busy with something. And that's why intimacy is holy. If you can get above all things and just two human beings being with each other, that's holy. We're all stuck with things. If you can get past your things, that's pretty holy. That's like Adam and Chava before they ate from the tree. So what happens is you feel more innocent than before. Americans are told to have sex. You need to have sex. You don't wait for marriage, you have sex so that you're experienced, so that you're good at it, so that when you get married, you'll be good at it together. Sex makes you feel less. You feel smaller, you feel wasted, you feel less respect for yourself and less respect for the other person. Every time. Every time. Intimacy makes you feel cleaner, more innocent, higher, better than before. Very different experiences. Okay, we have some questions here written down. Can your past sins keep you from your intended soulmate? Not if your soulmate is also sinning, then you're perfect. Just make sure you're doing the same sin and then it'll be made in heaven. Your sins don't prevent you from your soulmate. It only makes it a little harder to impress your soulmate. But you're going to marry your husband or wife. If you've sinned, well, that'll be something you'll have to overcome. But you're not going to miss your soulmate. How do you know if you've met your soulmate? Some guy once wrote to the Rebbe many, many years ago. He said, I was on a bus going to Williamsburg and I saw my soulmate, but she doesn't want to talk to me. So he asked for a bracha. So the Rebbe gave him a bracha for a refuah shlema. You don't know your soulmate by looking at her. You know it's your soulmate. You know it's your soulmate if she marries you. Then you know. What do you know before she marries you? You met her, you like her, and you hope she's your soulmate. That's all you have to know. If you hope she's your soulmate, then marry her. If she's not your soulmate, it won't happen. You got nothing to risk. If it's your soulmate, it will happen. What happens to the intended soulmate of a person who marries a non-Jew? See, I was talking in this school in the suburb of Minneapolis. You can't marry a non-Jew. You can live in a house with a non-Jew. You can't marry a non-Jew. Marriage means connecting and becoming one again with the part that you got separated from. You didn't get separated from a non-Jew, so you can't reconnect to a non-Jew. So you can live happily ever after, but you're not married. It's not a marriage. It's not what God wanted. Okay. What about couples who get divorced and then remarry some more than one? Like third time, fourth time. So who belongs to whom? And how can you ever know that you married the one that Hashem chose for you? Number two, how do you get to the chuppah? Your mother and father kind of carry you. I know, it's a good question because you have this thing that you can't see where you're going. So how do you get to the chuppah? It's a good question. What are the steps and thought processes and actions that get you to the chuppah? And number three, what if you pray every day for yours, full-hearted, and nothing seems to be changing? What about people who never get married? If you remarry more than once, each one of those people are another part of the same neshama. Because a soul can divide into many parts. I think it can divide into 7 parts, 7 female and 7 male. But God chooses who is going to be the first, who's going to be the second, who's going to be the third, etc. I know Elizabeth Taylor was married 7 times. But not 8, because the soul only divides 7. Otherwise, she'd be married 10. Anyway, she wasn't Jewish, so it's a whole different story. Every marriage, whether it's the first or the second or the third, is made in heaven. Nobody marries somebody simply because they chose. There are certain decisions God doesn't let us mess up. So he doesn't let us marry whoever we want. He decides. Just like he decides how many children you're going to have and what kind of children you're going to have, he also decides who you're going to marry. But he decides who's going to be number 1, who's going to be number 2, and so on. Now, how do you get to the chuppah? The best thing is, know that your zivug, your husband, your wife already exists. Plan on how you're going to make her life better and how you're going to make his life better. That's a preparation for a chuppah. Plan on how you're going to raise good children. That's how you get to the chuppah. But if you're sitting around wondering, who is my husband? You're wasting your time. He is who he is. And what if you pray every day and nothing is changing? And what about people who never get married? There's an exception to every rule. If a guy comes to you and says, how do I know I'm not going to die tomorrow? You say, what are you talking about? You're 30 years old, you're healthy. I know somebody who died at 30. That's weird. People don't die at 30. No, I know somebody who died at 30. I know 2 people who died at 30. They're both weird. Nobody dies at 30. It's the exception to the rule, and it's not normal to think I'm going to be the exception. That's crazy thinking. You think I'm part of the average, not the exception. People get married and have children. That's the norm. Oh, I know some people who never get married. Yeah, I know people who die. You're not planning to die? Then don't plan to be single. Don't think that you're the exception. What about those who are the exception? They're the exception. Don't let the exceptions scare you. And what if you're praying and not getting answered? You're getting answered. God is saying, soon. You don't hear him say that? Soon, soon. Wait a minute. Does the Torah give us priorities of what to look for in a spouse? Not really. The Torah tells you what qualities you should bring to your spouse. But you're not his rabbi or her rabbi. So you don't make her, make yourself. That's what the Torah wants you to do. What boundaries are there where you draw the line? If someone is a difficult person and has challenges or is stubborn and is not giving the other gender a fair enough try, when is trying added an effort enough? In other words, when do you know to get divorced? As long as you're asking, then you're not ready. Somebody comes to me and says, my husband did this and this and this. You think I should divorce him? No. Okay, come back 2 weeks later. You know what he did today? You think I should divorce him now? No. But when somebody comes and says, that's it, I'm finished, then help him get divorced. In other words, divorce is not an option. If somebody would come and say, my foot hurts, you think I should cut it off? No. No, my foot hurts a lot. You think I should cut it off? No. But when it gotta go, God forbid, then it's gotta go. Then you have no question anymore. So divorce is not something you could do if you're in the mood. When it's necessary, you have to. And when you don't have to, then you don't. It's an amputation. Sometimes you need to amputate. Some woman said to me once, she hated her husband, they never got along. It was horrible for years and years and years. And she's always complaining about him. And one time she comes over and she says, he did it again. He took the car, didn't even ask me. The car is not in good condition. The tires are bald. And he went out of town with this car, and it's dangerous. And I said, good. So maybe he'll get into an accident and die, and you'll be finished with him. She said, chas v'shalom. That's right. You're not divorcing him. If love is not an integral part in deciding who is right for someone, then isn't chemistry to some degree essential in a relationship? Do you think someone who feels that the person he or she is dating is a good match on paper, but there is not enough feelings of chemistry or sparks, could have a successful marriage without feeling like he or she settled? If you've been reading romance books, you will never be satisfied, because the next book is even better. What is good chemistry? If you're sitting with a man and you feel comfortable being a woman, that's good chemistry. If you're sitting with a man and you're excited about him, I don't know what that means. But if he makes you feel comfortable with you, not you're excited about him, that's called good chemistry. Because generally when you're sitting with a man, there's tension. You need to prove something. You need to show off. And you're worried. What does he think of you? But if you're sitting with a man and you feel comfortable being yourself, he's doing that to you. That's good chemistry. And the same in reverse. You're sitting with a woman and you feel like a man. Not like a competition. Not like you have to prove something that's good chemistry. So it's not sexual excitement, it's not sparks flying, it's, wow, I'm okay with this person. That is very good chemistry. One more thing before we go. And if you want to follow, continue on this theme, there are some tapes you can buy on the subject, other subjects. But one more thing. Don't come to the marriage with a heavy suitcase, baggage. If you're still angry at your mother, don't bring that to the marriage. Finish that first, then get married. Because the Torah says, Al kein yazov ish es aviv es imo, and then he can get married. To get married, you have to leave your mother and father. And that means leave the problems that you have with your mother and father. Don't bring them into the marriage. So if you're sitting with a guy and you want to know what's going on and what kind of a husband is he going to be, ask a simple question. How's your father? If he says, I don't want to talk about it, he is married to his problem. If he says, my father, why do you want to know? I hate him. Back off. Solve your problem with your father and then come talk to me. But I can't marry you like this. And the same is true. A man is sitting with a woman and he says, how is your mother? If she says, I haven't talked to her in 10 years. Not only because she's going to be your mother-in-law, which is difficult enough. It's because your wife is married to this problem. Half her heart and half her brain is busy with her mother. And this can go on till she's 80. Your wife. So here's what you need to do. Make peace. Before you get married, make peace with the family you come from so that you can start the family that you're going to have. How do you make peace? Maybe you don't agree with your mother. Maybe you don't agree with your father. You have differences of opinion. Maybe you're even angry and hateful. But whatever your father is, he's your father. That's not good enough for you. Then you got a problem. Whatever your mother is, she's your mother. She's your mother. And that is good enough. She's not a great advisor. She's not a great friend. She's not fine. But she's your mother. Good enough. So imagine your mother is a little weird. It happens. And you're a teenager, and you want to bring your friend to your house, but you're ashamed because your friend is going to meet your mother and find out how weird she is. So you don't bring your friends home. You got a problem. But if your mother's a little weird, and you bring your friends home, and you say to your friends, come, I'll introduce you to my mother. She's a little weird, but that's my mom. Perfect. Perfect. You have a mother, you are a daughter, you're healthy. Your mother is weird? That's cute. And the same with a father. If you're ashamed to be his son, then you're not healthy. But no matter what faults you think your father has, if you're okay with his being your father, then you're okay. Which in very simple language means, I may not think my father is great, I may not think my mother is great, but I don't sit in their chair. Because you don't sit in your mother's chair, you don't sit in your father's chair. Which means I have a father, I have a mother. I don't like them, I don't like them. But I'm not a mushroom. I have parents. I am somebody's son. That makes me healthy. But if I don't care, and I'm not interested, and I don't even know which seat is my father's seat and which seat is mine, then I'm the one who's damaged. So make peace with your mother. Don't become her best friend. Make peace with your father. Then you're ready to get married. So I want to give you all a bracha. Let's see, right now we're in which month? June. That's a very good month to get married in. A June bride. Next June, you should all be living in your own homes with your spouse, hopefully pregnant.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, and thank you everyone for attending.